all is still quiet on the Josh Giddy injury front, but with Josh Giddy expected to miss some time, on today's episode, I want to talk about a specific player that's going to have an opportunity to really step up their game over the absence of Josh Giddy. And no, it's not Coby White or Matas Buzelis for that matter. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus the Bulls' growing chances to make the actual playoffs and the concern that's bringing Bulls fans. We're going to get into all that, a little bit of the mailbag, and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go to get into the content for today, y'all. And yeah, man. So still no update from the team in regards to Josh Giddy's injury. Now, with the team not playing until tomorrow, that quiet front could just be, there's no need to really announce it as of yet, right? Still allowing some time to really, before they make a determination, they could have allowed Josh Giddy that time to allow swelling to go down, see how he feels, his pain tolerance level, things like that before making that final decision. And that's not a bad thing if that is what they're doing, right? But with how nasty the injury looked, I do expect that Josh Giddy's probably going to miss at least the rest of this week, right? We play Thursday and Saturday. I would not be surprised at all if Josh Giddy's out those two games. Again, could be wrong on that. We could see what happens. Maybe they announce today or early tomorrow that Josh Giddy's, go for the game, right? But as long as we don't know for sure, it seems like there's going to be a void there, right? And when you look at Josh Giddy and the importance that he's had for the Chicago Bulls, especially since the All-Star break, when you look at his usage rate since the All-Star break is up to 25 almost, 24.8. That's the second highest of the team, second to Coby White at 26. Nikola Vucevic does have a 25 usage rate as well, but he only played a couple of games before going down after the All-Star break himself. So that opens up a nice path of need for the Chicago Bulls. And I think one of the players that is set to inherit quite a bit of that actually is Tre Jones, right? Tre Jones, who already moved into the starting lineup with Lonzo Ball being out. And now he's going to see even more of an uptick, right? When you look at Tre Jones' usage rate, in his 4 games as a starter, it's 15.6, right? Which has him at 9th of the 11 Bulls players, that have appeared in at least 3 games of the last 4 games. So when you go into that, Tre Jones has averaged 13 points, 5.3 rebounds, 6 assists, and only 1 turnover over that stretch as a starter for the Chicago Bulls, right? He's also shot over 50% from the field and 50% of his three-pointers as well. So he's naturally going to see a bit of an uptick as well with Josh Giddy out, and he's going to be able to operate more as that team's actual point guard, right? A true on-ball point guard that's more looking at distributing. And, of course, he's going to take his offense because we're going to need him to take some shots in the offense with everything that we're missing. And the Bulls have just been better with Tre Jones on the court, right? When you look at it right now, the opponents turn the ball over 7.8 times per game when Jones is on the floor, opposed to 2.8 when he's off the floor, right? That's the biggest margin of turnovers on the roster. So it's not something that's just a flash in the pan. Like, it's something that you're seeing that he's having an impact on the game for the Chicago Bulls. And then yesterday I talked about how Coby White's scoring is going to be even more needed, right? Even though he's already been averaging over 20 points since the All-Star break. But I think when you look at Tre Jones, and again, another point guard who's one of their best abilities is the ability to make the players around them better while not turning the ball over. The backcourt between Tre Jones and Coby White has kind of more of a natural fit than Josh Giddy and Coby White, even though Josh Giddy and Coby have really been working it out, and we'll talk about that a little bit here in a second. So, if Giddy's going to miss some extended period of time, I don't think it's the worst case in the world to be able to take an extended look at Tre Jones. Again, I'm of the camp right now, Tre Jones has played himself into another contract. But as we talked about before many times, just because you play yourself into another contract doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the contract. Not everything's fair when it comes down to basketball. So I think, Tre Jones is going to have this huge opportunity. He's going to be ready for it, right? Jones is a guy that when you look at it, over 300 career starts, right? He's a guy that has more starting experience than Josh Giddy or Ayo Dosunmu for that matter. And so because of that, Tre Jones stepping into this role it's business as usual for him, right? So really look at Tre Jones over this time and to see what he has, right, to give. And he's gonna be motivated to do so as well. Tre Jones is playing for his next contract, right? He fell out of the rotation in San Antonio, and I'm sure there were some questions from him and his agent on how free agency was gonna look for him. Now he's playing this role with the Chicago Bulls. Yeah, the team hasn't been winning a huge hell of a lot. Shout out to the 3-game winning streak, though. And now he has an opportunity to play himself and show the basketball world, hey, don't forget about me. If you need a point guard that is going to be able to pass, score a little bit, play solid defense, and not turn the ball over, I'm still right here, right? And so I'm happy for Tre Jones and the opportunity that he gets. I'd love to see him in a Bulls uniform. You know, if we can find a way to get rid of the ball-headed hoe Javon Carter, all great, right? If we can find a way to clear out the glut of guards that we have again, great, right? We'll see what the future holds. I still think as of right now, based off what we know, it's a slim chance that Tre Jones comes back. He deserves to come back, though. And we'll see what the future does hold. But I do think that backcourt between him and Coby White could be really interesting to watch. Yes, a smaller backcourt. We know Tre Jones is a smaller player, but per what the quote we read from Billy Donovan, sometimes you look at what a player does. Damn all that wingspan, damn all the height, right? Tre Jones is a dog, and he's shown that out there. He plays with such a level head-up style that it just makes it really fun basketball and effective basketball to watch. And so as long as Tre Jones is still playing in that manner, in that way, really excited to see about this opportunity that he gets. And I think that him and Coby can actually have some just off the board chemistry in regards to how their game is. They're both attack guards, right? They both keep their heads up. Tre Jones likes to play. Tre Jones is a more natural three-point shooter than what Josh Giddy has been over his career, though Josh Giddy's killing it from three here lately. And again, for my Josh Giddy stance, not the fans of the stands, because some of y'all get a little triggered at small things. I'm not in any way saying that Tre Jones is a better player than Josh Giddy. I'm just saying that he has been a better three-point shooter over his career than Josh Giddy. And that fit with Coby just maybe a little bit more seamless, whereas Coby and Giddy have had to figure it out, if that makes sense, right? But yeah, really excited for that. I think another player, if you're looking for the usage rate to go up as well as Matas Buzelis, his usage rate has already gone up 3%, right? He's gone from 16 before the All-Star break up to 19. Of course, that also came with him starting, so you're naturally going to see an uptick with your usage rates when you go from being a bench player to a starter. But I think you can see another tick, right? With Josh Giddy being out, right? And while Tre Jones is great, love Tre Jones as a point guard, his Matas' ability to cut to the rim, especially if we actually run those plays for him, and Tre Jones' ability to find him, I think is another thing that could work really well right out there. So we'll see, man. We don't know if Lonzo's going to come back as well, mate. And if he comes back, a lot of this that I'm saying right now could change, right? Because Lonzo's probably going to get more of the point guard duties then if that's the case, even though I think it still should go to Tre Jones. Again, no knock to Lonzo at that point. But Matas is another player that I think you're going to naturally see his usage rate go up quite a bit now with Josh Giddy out, because somebody's going to have to step in and take that help, that 24.8 usage rate. So even if like Tre Jones, who was at 15, goes up, right, that still is going to leave another 10 usage percentage to go around. Matas is right there ready to take it. Could go to Kevin Huerter as well. Kevin Huerter, he has a 19.7 usage rate since the All-Star break as well with the Chicago Bulls. Zach Collins could continue to go up. So just be something to look out for. And another thing, right, as we're talking about something to look out for this team, stepping away from the guards, is the big man rotation, right? Over with Nikola Vucevic's first game back, coming off the bench, it left Jalen Smith completely out of the rotation. Now, I don't think that was the right decision by Billy Donovan. I think when you're looking at a team that's so guard heavy, like there is more than enough ability to find a way to play Jalen Smith, Zach Collins, and Nikola Vucevic. It just means you would have to play some traditional lineups, what it seems like Billy Donovan is completely adverse to doing, which really makes no sense to me, right? You have now an opportunity while you're lacking, some size in some places to play a double big lineup, and that's something to look out for. Like Billy Donovan's reluctance to go double big basically ever is such a huge question mark, right? Like now that you have 3 quality bigs, Jalen Smith is a quality big. He's giving you quality minutes. He's been nothing but a plus player for the Chicago Bulls basically since he came here, right? And for that to go completely out of the rotation because Nikola Vucevic was back, it did not have to happen, right? I could see if we were talking about like a glut at the power forward, so it wasn't really any minutes there for him either. That's not what we're in, right? Billy Donovan has to try to find like, and that goes to my problem with Billy Donovan, right? When you look at getting creative with lineups, we don't really see that from Billy Donovan ever, and it's just like it's already bad enough that Jalen Smith's only averaging 16 minutes per game, right? A little over that. But when you look at it, like the opposing team's effective field goal shooting percentage goes down. The opposing team's turnover percentage goes up, right? All these things when Jalen Smith is on the court for the Chicago Bulls, why is it that he has to like, I don't know, man. It's one of those things when you look at with Billy Donovan, and I had some hope like, oh, Vooch is going to come back. Zach Collins is still playing well. Zach Collins can also play the 4 or the 5. Jalen Smith can play the 4 or the 5. We can play some of Matas at the 3, so we're not always running a 3-guard lineup. And it's just Billy Donovan. You look at it every single time. Now, it's only one game. I could very well be overreacting, but to me, it's just there was no reason why Jalen Smith had to be completely out of the rotation in the game against the Indiana Pacers, especially when you look at as well that the Bulls were playing with some really good momentum and pace in that time period. Like Jalen Smith getting a DNP, man, it's just I don't like that at all, man. And again, it's one game. In that one game, it could have been hugely important to the Bulls. They could have figured like we really got to see how Vooch looks out there with how things have changed. Vooch did have a double-double. He was +6 in his time on the court as well. But to me, like Patrick Williams was the one that I'd be looking at and saying, if anybody's going to fall out of the rotation, it may be time to start making that conversation for Patrick Williams. Because look at it, right? What does Patrick Williams bring that Jalen Smith really doesn't? Jalen Smith can go 1 of 3 and 0 for 2, right? Jalen Smith's a better rebounder. He's a better shot blocker, right? I think he fits better as far as getting up and down with pace, and he's not as passive as Patrick Williams either, right? So that's just something to look out for, as well as that big rotation. That now that Billy Donovan can actually have a legit big rotation, do we actually have one of those? Like, do we actually go to that? That's something to look out for as well over this stretch for the Chicago Bulls, and we'll see where it all shakes out, right? But with that said, let's get into the next topic, man. The Bulls right now, their odds to make the playoffs are rising. Their odds to make the play-in are increased rising, but we know that the Bulls, despite, going like 2-8, 2-12 or something like that, they didn't even move up and down. Now that they're winning, they're definitely going to lock in that as more. The Bulls right now have a 73.7% chance to make the play-in tournament, and they also have a 63.1% chance to get the 10th seed and a 9% chance to move up to the 9th seed, right? And so the question now is with the Bulls, and many Bulls fans are asking, is how does that affect the lottery for the Bulls, right? The Bulls right now still have the 9th best odds in the draft lottery, right? But they do have a chance to kind of fall below that. You look at them and the Portland Trailblazers. The Trailblazers have only one more win than the Chicago Bulls, and a win percentage is just 10%, 9% higher than the Chicago Bulls because they've also played one game more than the Bulls. So if the Bulls keep winning, keep in mind the Bulls have won their last 3. The Portland Trailblazers have lost their last 4. As a matter of fact, both teams in the 10th and 11th spot. The Miami Heat as well have lost their last 4. They're have only a couple more wins than the Chicago Bulls as well. So the Bulls do have a chance here to fall out of the best top 10 odds, right? And if they do, thank God for them going and finding getting their own draft pick back in that trade for Zach LaVine, because we are in danger, would have been in dangerous territory of the San Antonio Spurs getting that pick from the Chicago Bulls. So now that that doesn't have to worry about that, it's still like how far down the lottery are the Bulls gonna fall, right? If they do fall to the 10th worst record in the NBA instead of the 9th, we go from a 20% chance at the top 4 to a 13.9% chance at a top 4 pick. And our odds at the number 1 overall pick fall from 4.5% to 3%. Now, in no way, and I've been one of the guys that's been most boisterous on saying, let these guys play, right? Let them play. At the end of the day, the Bulls were never going to play. The players were never going to play to lose every game out, right? That was never going to happen for the Chicago Bulls. I hate for that to be a wake-up call for anybody who did not realize that that's the place that the Bulls are in. But hey, wake-up call. The Bulls are never going to be in a place to try to lose out and tank out the rest of the season. But now the questions do rise of how bad could this get for the Chicago Bulls? And, the thing is, at the end of the day, it is what it is, man. The Bulls have a 13.3% chance right now to make the playoffs. That means they wouldn't have a lottery pick at all, right? And I know that if the Bulls do somehow make it through the play-in, because keep in mind there are some of the teams in the play-in that could very well look to do Dallas Mavericks type business where how hard are we really going to fight when we have our own first-round pick in a very deep draft? And, that goes back to the thing that you can never completely eliminate tanking, right? And the more interesting thing, honestly, is that when you look at the Eastern Conference and you look at there's almost a fight to not get the 10 seed. Sometimes you would be saying, like in most cases, you would like to say, hey, there's going to be a fight. There's going to be a dash here of teams that are going to be trying to fight to get that chance to make that 10 seed and go into the play-in. But it looks like everybody's trying to avoid it, man. You look at, for example, the Philadelphia 76ers right there. They are 4.5 games now back of the Chicago Bulls. I don't have any faith. They're 2-8 in their last 10. I have zero faith that they're going to actually try to make any move. Even if they wanted to, I don't know if they could because they sucked for the majority of the season. The Toronto Raptors are one of the teams that held the most hope for my tanking Bulls fans. And they are 5-5 in their last 10. They did win their last game. They sit 5 games behind the Chicago Bulls with, 17 games now left? The Brooklyn Nets, which were right there up at the 9th seed at one point in time, they fall all the way back. They're also 5 games behind the Chicago Bulls. They're 2-8 in their last 10. And then there you have the questions on the teams above the Bulls. How far could those guys fall? The Bulls are only a half game behind the Orlando Magic and the Miami Heat at the 8th and 9th seed. I'm just saying, this ending of the season, the last 10 games of the season are going to be so crazy to watch because you're either going to get teams that are going to try to gear up, focus, lock in, or they're going to be teams that are trying to, hey, listen, what do we need to do to avoid the play-in, right? That's going to be the things that you're looking for. And overall, listen, I know that's going to cause a lot of anxiety for Bulls fans over that time period, but it is what it is, y'all. It's out of our control. All we can do is sit here, wait, watch, listen, and see the way that it's going to go. But I tell you what, the thing that I'm more focused on than lottery odds right now is seeing these young guys continue to compete, man. I get it. I get it for the people that say things like, but Hayes, what are we going to do? How are we going to improve if we don't have a top 5 pick? Listen, it is what it is at this point. It's all I can say. It is what it is, man. And we'll see what the future does hold for the Bulls. But, my tanking fans, have some patience, pray, lock in. We'll see what the future does hold. All right, let's get into the mailbag, man. I want to get a little bit into the mailbag, man. We've got one voicemail from Larry.
What up, Hayes? This is Larry out of Mobile. I'm calling because I see that we're I heard you and Pat on Chicago Locked on Bulls talked about the Bulls may make the playoffs, and I'm looking is that it's definitely a possibility, and it's more likely a possibility that we move down to 9 in the standings, with Dallas and possibly San Antonio passes, so we could get as low as 10th. So maybe they had something in mind with getting that pick back, which I doubt they saw this coming. Reason I'm calling is, well, I'll enjoy it if they go to the playoffs. It is what it is, and let them see what they do. But my real question is with Billy Donovan. Am I correct in saying that this is his going last year? Does he not have any more years on his contract? And if so, what is his incentive to try to get the Bulls into the worst record possible versus trying to, make himself look good for the next job if they're not giving him an extension? Usually, coach going into what they call a lame duck season is not a good thing for the organization, also for the coach to go into that, with that kind of mindset. So I don't know how that's going to play out. And then if so, with bringing those players back, how are we going to be bad enough next year to not repeat the same level of being, 7, 8, 9 in the standings versus being in the bottom 5 that we would need to do to give us the best chance to get into the, very top of the draft next year with what's happened. That was the other part of the question. Are we going to be too good to not be at the bottom again, at the bottom next year? All right, Hayes, appreciate it.
Larry brings up making the playoffs, man. And like Larry said, it is what it is. But the point that you bring up about Billy Donovan is an interesting point, right? And I don't even think it really has anything to do, because I think Billy Donovan has more job security than we know. And I've said it before. Billy Donovan, whenever he gets removed by the Bulls, he's not going to have any trouble finding another coaching job. whether that's the NBA coach or going back to college. Billy Donovan will have zero trouble finding another head coaching job. So I don't know if Billy's necessarily trying to coach to give himself the best chance at finding another job, because I don't think he'll have much trouble finding another job. I just don't, right? I don't know how much people are going to look at the situation with the Bulls and blame that just on Billy Donovan. Players still seem to love Billy Donovan, right? And so I think that that's a thing where I think Billy's just going to do what Billy was always going to do. He's always going to coach this team to try to win basketball games. That's always what Billy was going to do. As far as the Bulls being in the same place next season, go ahead and lock in. The Bulls are going to be fighting over the 9th or 10th seed again next year, especially if we do get, if we do have a solid draft pick this year and it's somebody who fits the chemistry of this team, it's still going to work out, right? The Bulls are going to be in fighting for that 10 seed again. Anybody who's hoping, the Bulls fans that are hoping that the Bulls are going to be a bottom 5 team anytime over the next handful of years, it's not happening. I tell y'all this, it's not going to happen. We have too good of players. Josh Giddy's too good. Matas is too good. Kobe's too good. Io's too good, right? We have too good of players to be a bottom 5 team. Now, we don't have good enough players yet. They're still developing to outrightly be a playoff team, but we're going to be in the play-in again. So you might as well write that in and be ready. Next season, the Bulls are going to be fighting for a play-in position again. It just is what it is. That's just the way that it's going to go. And, we'll see how the Bulls develop over that time, because that's going to be the part that's important, right? If we're getting into the play-in as a 9th, 10th, maybe even an 8th seed next year because Matas is taking a step. The flashes that Josh Giddy's shown here since the All-Star break are how he plays entirely next season. Giddy and Kobe find their chemistry as being the backcourt of the future. If all these things continually happen, listen, I'm telling y'all right now, I'm not too mad at the Bulls fighting for a playing spot at that point in time. This is my thought process. But you guys can let me know how you feel down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end everything on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.